Before we start,
Before
this is a new number 5. The date is wrong in the one in your packet.
That's a full one.
Michelle sent it to me. Did I use the one you sent me?
We want to copy that also.
I'll get it, copy. What you just gave me? I just printed it out for her. Right, take one, pass it down to new number 5. A new number 5.
It's this one, right?
Cornell, yep. The date's wrong in it.
Number 5.
Yeah.
Number 5.
Wait a minute, 2012, yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4. There's 5 of us. Should we go? No, all the fees have to be separate.
Right.
Just don't walk away.
So if they do something December 3rd, then
It's
December.
not a change.
Yeah, so they put out that.
No, if that passes December, they couldn't do anything on it.
There's 5 of you, so let's go.
Good morning, everybody. I'd like to call the executive committee to order. Roll call, please.
Mr. Samuelson.
Here.
Mr. Benson.
Here.
Mrs. Labuda.
Here.
Ms. Vetter.
Here.
Mr. Ruiz.
Here.
Mrs. Geiger. Mrs. Edwards. Here. Mr. Steingart. Mr. Sorensen.
Thank you. Okay. Josh, do you have anything for us today? No? Okay. Sam, anything for us today? Expedite, no. Okay.
That wasn't the question.
That wasn't the
You have
question.
something or no?
I have, but I'm going to refuse to deliver it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, our discussion, let's start on vacancies. Has everybody had a chance to review them? Let's start with the first one.
Steingart in.
Steingart in. Okay, public health. No county share.
Yes, if
It's an account clerk. Is Nancy here? No, Nancy McGraw?
No.
No, okay. Anybody have any questions or concerns with this? Okay. All in favor? Okay.
7 zip.
Number 2, this is the 911 center, emergency services dispatcher, position 651, full county share. It's a vacancy that would opened up on 8/2. Alex, you have anything that would you like to?
No, the A2 was, it opened up on A2, we're filling with overtime in the interim. We still need to answer the phones and fill the seats, so it'd be very helpful to be able to replace that.
We discussed this at public safety, didn't we?
Thank goodness.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I just want to bring up one point, Alex, that we didn't bring up in public safety, which is the impact on the overtime budget. Do you know how much, like, you're having to eat into, because you've lost 2 people, how do you reconcile that in terms of you have a cushion there, you're into your overtime,
Well,
you're
we've actually
25% in?
We've actually been down 3 total dispatchers. 1 dispatcher was still on probation, so I was able to fill that position. So we have 1 dispatcher in training right now with 2 vacancies. There's certainly going to be an impact on our overtime budget, but I think the cushion will come in that the regular positions aren't filled, so it'll come out of the
It'll be a
regular.
wash.
Yes.
Okay, so normally when you have someone that is doing well in training, how long does that training period last?
Training is a 3-month process to, we have to take some classes,
Geiger in.
on-the-job training, and it's a 3-month process before we let them, I'll say, fly solo, where they can handle, full SETI 911 call that comes in.
And how far are you into that 3-month process?
Excuse me?
How far is the person who's in training, how far along
I
are they
believe
in
he's
that?
3 weeks into that now, but he's doing very well. I don't know if he's gonna go the full 3-month period, but he's doing pretty well.
And when will you, if these vacancies are filled, then it's now August, September, October, November, so by December you should be back to normal?
Any other questions or of Alex discussion? Go ahead, Kitty.
From what I'm seeing, it looks like we're trying to fill 2 positions.
There are 2 positions, correct?
So,
One was vacated early August, and the other was mid-July, was a maternity leave which turned into a vacancy.
And you're down a total of how many positions?
Today, we're down a total of 2 positions,
With one in training,
1 in training.
so it's
So the
three.
one in,
One in training, we have hired.
moved into one of these positions?
No.
Negative, no. That was a 3rd vacancy that I had, that was filled.
The person in training has nothing to do with either of these 2 positions. These are 2 positions that are just vacated. One
So we
in-
have somebody hired right now in training.
in training.
We're we're looking to fill 2
Fill
other
2,
positions.
correct.
So for this department, potentially, we're looking to fill 3 slots.
2.
2 now, but the one in training will be moving into something.
He's already filled.
He's
already
already
in the
in,
spot.
he's already in the spot, the vacancy that
Okay.
happened earlier that he is in. So these are 2 new vacancies. One was vacated in July, one was vacated in August.
And I apologize, I didn't hear, what was the overtime, your overtime last month? Did you have a number on that?
I don't have a number off the top of my head.
Roughly?
But we're filling, at this point, because we're down 2, we're filling, 40 hours a week of, well, almost 80 hours a week of overtime, but,
Well, actually, I want to say
80 hours.
congratulations, because you worked
But
all
that's
summer
based on the
with
summer.
-2 employees, but then you had to pay the overtime.
Correct.
So, okay.
But that's also based upon our surge in the summer, is it not?
Summertime, we actually have a per diem who works in another, he comes in, he's a school teacher, he works during the summer, he works a 40-hour week, so he kind of picks up the,
So you're
summer.
not counting that as 80 hours of the overtime? Or you are counting that per diem person?
I'm
as
not
80?
counting that per diem person.
A per diem person is not paid an overtime wage, correct? They're paid a regular
Straight
wage.
time.
Okay, do we want to take both of these together?
Sure.
Okay, all in favor?
I would suggest separate them because I would fill 1, I would not fill 2.
Okay, so do them separately?
So, I mean, if you're looking at putting them together, then I'm not.
Well, I don't think the department should be penalized because someone decided to take
Have a
permanent
baby.
maternity leave.
Not saying that does need to be penalized, I'm saying there's 16 vacancies here for
Okay,
many departments.
let's,
No, they want me to-
okay, all in favor of the 2 positions? Okay, opposed? Okay, 1 opposed.
7 more.
Thank you. Okay, the sheriff's office, this is for the jail. Remember that they have minimum staffing that we have to, so actually I'd like to recommend, we probably should fill this because we need to stay at that recommended level.
Well, it's mandated now.
It's mandated level.
It's mandated and it's budgeted.
So I don't know that we should, for the jail positions, that they need to come back for these positions. They're mandated anyway, so I would like to recommend that we don't, for the jail positions, that we don't have to.
Jail with backfills, you're authorizing backfill.
Correction officer.
Correction
CO.
officer.
Correction,
back-
CO.
CO backfill.
Because those are
Well,
all
I think he's
mandated.
saying that they don't need to submit vacancy requests.
They
to the
don't
correctional
need, no more vacancy for requests for these mandated
But what I'm
positions.
saying is, it's an automatic backfill.
They have
That's the
mandatory
term.
102, whether they're backfills or not, they are supposed to have 102,
Yeah.
so they can, in essence, they should just be able to fill their positions.
To
based
maintain
upon
that
this-
102.
The Commissioner of Corrections requirement of having
Because
100.
with backfills, you don't come back to the committee.
What we're saying is they don't need to come at all for the correction officers.
Okay.
Well, the only question I have for Hal, hi, Hal, how are you? Since we're exporting, is it 38 still this month?
41.
41?
We just had a couple more less.
So do you still need the same amount, since we're 41's going down to Orange, or wherever they're going, do you still need the same in the jail here?
Yeah, because we got all our cells here full too.
And transport on top of it.
Okay, whatever.
So all in favor of filling the position? All right. And all in
8-0.
favor of not having to look at these vacancies on a monthly basis?
As long as you let us know in public safety that they're coming up, that at least keeps us, our
I'd like
fingers
to
on the
know.
pulse.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's fair. Okay, thank you. Adult Care Center, Building Safety Monitor, position vacated 7/16. There's a county share of 1,335. Is Deborah here? Somebody?
I think
Are
that's
you-
a good deal for the county.
Okay. Are there any questions or concerns about this?
No.
Okay, all in favor? Any opposed?
8-0.
Okay, thank you. Okay, account clerk, this is a heap position with backfills.
No county share.
There's no county share. position vacated April 28th of 13. Any questions? Kitty?
Can we do all the heat ones together?
All the what?
All the heat?
Well, there's a couple of different heaps. The next group of heaps are temporary positions, so those should be done separately. I also have a question about why we have backfills on temporary positions for seasonal and temporary positions.
That was my concern with this position. Is this
That's not what
temporary?
this position is not a temporary.
Okay, so this is a full-time heat
Correct.
position. That we're not looking about backfilling, we're looking at filling.
Correct. I'm not sure why backfill is on all of them, but. Carol?
An account clerk is an entry-level position, and normally you wouldn't have any backfills for an account clerk. It's coming off the list. There's no reason for backfill.
Randy,
Unless you
is
have
there a reason that
transfer
there's a
over
backfill on
from
every one of the vacancies?
Well, many of these positions are ones that were approved back in January, and then there was a policy that addressed the positions approved in January, and that policy did grant the ability to backfill on those designated positions, and then thereafter, you still had to request a backfill. I think what happened on these account clerk, because we ran into a couple of issues with not having backfill authority on other positions, I think it just got added in there mistakenly on the temp positions as a backfill. So we'll hire four temporary heat workers, and they would be people from the account clerk list. So it would not affect, as Carolyn said, their entry level, and it would not affect, it wouldn't be a promotion for anyone.
Okay, I would only request that whenever you're putting in a vacancy, to just make sure that there is a possibility of a backfill or not.
Right, and that's what we understand going forward.
Okay, great. So on this position, the account clerk, Kitty?
So the position duties, account clerk with backfills, we're striking that word with backfills. Am I correct in thinking here?
Is that correct, Randy, on this position in particular? As Carolyn said, this is an account clerk that's coming off the list, it shouldn't be a backfill.
I guess theoretically, a person could be in a temp position as an account clerk, and then that temp position could expire, and then the full-time position could be open for that person, and is that considered a backfill, and then you would fill that position with a person who was a temp.
You're saying backfilling a temporary position? Moving somebody
No,
from?
backfilling a permanent, in the heat unit, you have a permanent account clerk, okay? And then you also have temporary account clerks.
Right.
Those are 4 to 6 month periods. So if someone was in the temporary position, but then had the opportunity instead to go into that permanent position, would that require another request to fill that vacancy if you were filling it from the temporary
To
position?
fill which vacancy? The temporary?
They go from temporary to permanent, that
Right.
creates a vacancy in the temporary.
In the temporary position, that's what I'm saying. So,
But that wouldn't automatically say to me, because I'm moving you from part-time to full-time, that I automatically have the right to fill that part-time slot. That's what backfill means to me.
It's-
And that's the
it's not
reason why I want to
it's
start.
not a part, Kitty, it's not a
There's a
part-time
difference.
slot,
It's
it's
a
a
full-time.
temporary, so he's just saying that he would have the ability to then move somebody into the rest of the term of that temporary position.
And I would prefer to fill this as a permanent position,
Mhm.
position's duties, and strike the word backfill. That's all I'm asking for.
Okay, any other comment?
Then I'd have no problem with filling it.
So, Randy, is this position going to be filled with a temporary, going into this position, so you will have a,
One of them is
the first one,
permanent.
it's position 2668.
Right. That's a permanent position.
Right, that's a permanent position, but the person that's going to fill that position is coming from
Will come from a list.
the list, so there is no backfill.
Right.
Okay, all right, so without,
We're
we're
not striking back.
we're striking
Yes,
backfill,
first.
and all in favor of filling the account clerk position.
8-zip.
Thank you. Any opposed? Next one, social welfare examiner, 0 county share. This is the same thing. Is this a legitimate backfill? Somebody's being moved?
But again, with the, oftentimes in the social welfare examiner series, individuals are promoted from the account clerk series. So if we were to fill a social welfare examiner vacancy with an account clerk, we are seeking the permission to backfill on the account clerk position at the time a person is promoted.
Okay. Any questions on that?
When is he backfilling it?
If-
I mean, when's he filling it?
Well, here's the question. If we're gonna hire a social welfare examiner with no county share, that's fine. But if we backfill it, is there gonna be a county share?
Depends on the program in which they come from. If they were an account clerk that came from HEAP, there would be no county share. If there was an account clerk that came from Medicaid, there would be no county share. Temporary assistance count clerk, then you may get a 25% local share.
Which is the reason why I wanna strike the word backfill in these positions.
But then every time he fills something from within, he has to come back and
Right.
for the backfill.
Why don't you put a date in there, backfill by a certain date? Then he doesn't have to come back.
Well, this one was vacant in April.
I mean, the situation we have right now in the social welfare examiner series is that there was no longer a valid list, really from the beginning of the year, but there was a test that occurred in June. We did not want to fill the examiner positions with provisional people and have trained them, and then they were not reachable once the results came back. So the test was in June, the results came back a week or 2 weeks ago. We now have a list. So in order to fill the positions, we request personnel to certify the list of eligibles. We go through that process. With filling 4 or 5 positions, that's a pretty lengthy process in terms of canvassing for each individual. So if I time limit the time in which to backfill, then it's going to be very difficult. But if it's the wish of the legislature to come back on backfill, we can do that.
Okay, so we are striking backfill on that? Everybody?
I like striking backfill.
I know that.
I don't see the need.
To have a backfill?
I don't see the need to strike it.
To strike it? Okay. All in favor with the backfill? Okay, opposed?
Kidding. 7-1.
Okay, another social welfare examiner with backfill, 0 county share. This is the same story, I assume. Okay. This position was vacated in July 1st. Any discussion, question, Cara?
Yeah, my question has to do with the fact that I'm still not clear on how many of these are being filled internally and whether there's whatever process is done in order to advertise the job is being done. Can you just address that?
For the social welfare examiner, there is a test.
Yeah.
That was offered in June. I think there were 38 individuals who took the test. I believe some of the individuals took the test as a promotional opportunity, others took it as open competitive.
Okay.
So in filling these positions, we have to request a certification of eligible list from personnel. They certify the eligible list, we then make appointments from that list.
And when
We start with a promotional list. If there's no longer a promotional list, we then go to open competitive.
And when is the next date for the exams? There's not anything set.
That list is good for 4 years unless it's used.
Okay, so then once you've gone through that particular list,
Then we order another exam.
okay, so we're not at that stage yet.
No, we just, in fact, it's a new list from a test in June.
So it'll be good for the next 4 years?
Yes.
Okay, got it. Okay, thanks.
Okay, any other questions? All in favor? Opposed?
8-0.
Okay, this is for the HEAP program, social welfare examiner, zero
Same
county
thing.
share. Vacated 6/22/13. Any questions? All in favor?
8 zip.
Okay. This begins, 1, 2, 3, 4. The next 4 are temporary positions, so we would strike backfills on that, on each of those. Okay. All zero county share. So let's take the 4 of those together. All in favor? Opposed?
8 zip.
Thank you. Okay, and the,
Can we just make sure that the press is aware that these are all zero county share, because people were asking about, you
well,
know.
I just said they were all county, zero
Yeah.
county
They
share.
have the, yeah. I gave it a date, and Dan got one.
Are you picking on me?
Leonard, did you get, you got
Leonard got
that?
one.
County share.
Got one too.
Is Fritz here, Fritz?
Equal opportunity, you gotta be an equal opportunity picker one.
Okay, we are now on Center for Workforce Development.
You're missing one senior welfare.
With the 24
Yeah,
thousand.
14.
I'm sorry, 14, okay, sorry.
B14.
All right, this is another temporary position, right?
No.
No.
No?
It's temporary.
Oh, temporary, okay, I'm sorry. This is a county share, 24,592, vacated in May. Any questions or concerns on this? All in favor? Opposed?
8 zip.
Kitty opposed?
Oh, 7-1.
Okay, Center for Workforce Development, V15. Employment and Training Specialist, zero county share. It will vacate on September 13th. Any questions?
Yeah, how long is the person who is retiring, how long had that person been there?
Laura
Laura's
is not here.
Okay.
Does
never
anybody
mind.
have that? You don't have that.
Did you ask me for the full board, Laura?
A
Well,
long
it's just
time?
nice for us to know if somebody's been here for 10,
12 years?
Oh, 12
Jill
years.
says she thinks it's 12 years.
So it's nice for,
Bring it down to
it's nice for us to have a certificate of appreciation or something for people who've been
Okay.
retiring after 10 years. We haven't been doing that.
Okay, all in favor?
8 zip.
Are you about ready?
Okay, Sullivan County Jail. This is
Hi,
this is
how are you?
Supervisor in Jail Nursing Services.
I'm
What's
curious,
it all about?
How many nurses does the supervisor, how many nurses do you have over there?
4 altogether,
so-
including the supervisor.
So it's her plus 3 more.
Correct. We run 16 hours.
And they have to be, do they have to be 16 hours a day?
And then someone's on call for the remaining 8.
Is the supervisor within the collective bargaining agreement?
Yes.
So, what level of education is the supervisor? Is it different than the staff nurses there?
Yeah, it's a whole separate civil service guideline of requirements. Basically, she's responsible for all the policies and procedures in the medical office and for scheduling and making all the appointments for the inmates, coordinating with the doctor. I mean, she's the supervisor.
So this person left,
She'll be leaving August 30th. But we're trying to get the process kind of moving because it is an important position, and I'd like to try to, you know, because we got to advertise it for 10 days, and then we got to do interviews, and before it's all said and done, we'll be, you know, into September, October.
but the qualifications of the person is above the regular staff nurse in that.
Or is it
In
an
the
RN,
jail.
or is she have a, is that what you're asking, does she have a
Yeah,
BS?
does she have to have?
It's an RN with certain levels of, she's got to have, if I remember right, a year or 2 of supervisory skills. You got to have at least a year now in the mental health field because we're having such a problem with that. Different levels of experience. So it's different than just a regular RN.
Kitty saw the salary and said, wait a minute, maybe we should give up legislature and go.
They make, this salary is more than an ICU nurse.
I know it is.
You know, this salary is more than a supervisor, I think, in a number of positions within the hospital. It's quite high, and it's not necessarily being filled by somebody with a master's or at least a bachelor's. It it could be a 2-year grad that we're looking at with the certification to having worked in the mental health unit. It is a
Well,
concern.
how much supervisory experience a 2-year grad would have?
It's also a 10 Bushnell.
I'm all about filling RN positions, but I'm a little concerned.
Okay. Any other concerns? Okay. All in favor? Opposed?
8 zip.
Okay, that's it for the vacancies. Thank you. Move on to resolutions. Our first resolution is to amend the rules of the Sullivan County Legislature. I need a motion to untable
I'll move
this.
it. Jonathan Kathy.
Okay, Jonathan, Kathy. Okay, any discussion? All in favor? Opposed?
8 zip.
Thank you.
Oh, no, wait.
What?
I need a motion and a second to approve it.
Okay,
We're on
motion,
the table.
all right, we untabled motion to approve.
Motion.
Jean,
Cora.
second Cora. All in favor?
8 zip.
Number 2 is to adopt 4 forms pursuant to the Sullivan County Ethics Law. These 4 forms were on our agendas last month, so you should have had a chance to review them. So do we have a motion? Jean, second Cora. Any questions or? Okay, all in favor?
8 zip.
Thank you. Okay, number 3, to adopt the 2013-14 Sullivan County Community College budget. Move.
Move it.
Okay, Jonathan and Kathy.
Okay.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Oh, I just wanted to.
Okay, discussion from Cora?
It's not written in the resolution, and I don't know if there would be a memorandum of understanding or whatever, but this points to the fact that $4 million is tied. In other words, if it was less than 4 million, then it would trigger less money coming from the SUNY state system. So there's a formula attached to it. I get that. The second part is that we've been asking, I guess, for the length of the time that I've been here, for that $4 million, we have a really good feeling that we're helping higher education in Sullivan County, and what I'd like to see coming back to the county is some form of internship from students who have, they're going for a degree in things that could actually be beneficial both to the college and to the county, like law enforcement, if there are students that would go to probation, audit or finance or legal or any of those related subjects. So I don't know what it takes, if I'm supposed to write a resolution or what's required in order to get what's up until now been just a loosely discussed plan into writing and into implementation, that we have a system where there's interns from Sullivan County coming, from SUNY Sullivan, coming through the government center.
I believe we should bring it up at the Government Services Committee meeting when Dr. Hilgerson is here, and she can, and she can
Kitty.
work out something with us.
Kitty?
That would be my suggestion.
To go along with what Cora is saying, if I recall correctly, Dr. Hildebrand had said and sent out to everybody to request from the department heads an outline of what the internship program in their department would need to be. So she has already reached out to us saying, okay, we'd be glad to do an internship program, but we need to know what the department needs and defined. Am I wrong in that?
Yeah, I
We
sent
did
something out.
receive- yeah.
My office sent something out shortly after your government service committee to that effect to all the department heads, and I don't know the results, but I'll check with Michelle to see what we've gotten back.
Because I think that would answer what Cora's looking for, and we need to formalize that.
I think the deadline was last Friday, or it's tomorrow, I can't remember.
I thought it was for next year now, because we had that discussion at your meeting, and
That's what I thought.
I thought it was good, we should then try to put it together for next year.
For
for
next year, but
right.
wouldn't that be within this 13,
Well-
14 budget?
Yeah, but I think
I mean, that's 13,
Right,
14,
right,
that
but-
is next year.
I think the money issue is, I think it's two separate issues.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
completely separate issues. I mean,
Well,
and
this
she's already
resolution-
agreed to do
Right.
that. The college has agreed to do it. What we're waiting for is responses from our departments to
Right.
see what those qualifications they would be looking for are. And you gave a date, Josh,
I
to?
don't recall what the date was, but
Okay.
it's either just passed or going to pass shortly, so we'll summarize whatever we received and then.
In government services for next month, and then we can move on from there and be sure that the program moves along in a timely way.
Thanks, Josh.
Thank
Could
you.
I ask a question about that? If we were to accept field placements or interns, is there an ability to get some reciprocation from the college in terms of our own staff being able to attend a 3-credit class in return for having supervised their field placement?
It
That's a
sounds
good
to me like
question.
that would be a good question, but we would need to have that discussion with Dr. Hilberson. So perhaps you want to plan to be here for the government services and have that conversation at that point.
On September 12th.
Okay.
Okay, thanks, Josh.
So, all in favor? Opposed?
8-zip.
Okay, thank you. Next, I'm going to switch the order of the next two. So we're going to move down to 5, and that's to amend the 2013 contract with Cornell Cooperative Extension.
That's the handout, the amended handout.
Right,
is that
that's,
correct?
Yes.
that's the number 5 that was just handed out. And the reason it was changed is because the dates were wrong.
The August date.
Okay. So we have a motion,
I'll move it.
Jean and Cora, okay? Any discussion on this? This was fully discussed in another meeting earlier,
Yes.
okay? And planning, I believe.
Yeah, I was involved in the discussion with Cornell. My concern is that, the contract spells out the job description in sharing the position with county planning and Cornell. So I don't know if that's been, spelled out yet, because I haven't seen that contract.
Well, as I remember, I think that was just almost a guesstimate from Greg. And it was to satisfy something with Cornell for the benefits. It wasn't anything in writing or rigid that it had to be a 60-40 split. It could be a 50-50. Am I correct, Greg, in what I'm saying?
Yeah, as long, we just, what we need to do together is work out the job description. I didn't want to go too far ahead
Right.
until we had this, and then we'll sit down, obviously together, and have a job description that's sent around as a draft.
Yeah, Cindy, the next step they'll proceed now, assuming this passes today, on their path of getting their job description done and then hiring the person, and then we'll at the same time work together on the details in the contract, what each party is gonna be
And
doing.
we talked with Joe, we would obviously be interviewing and hiring together.
Yeah.
Right, something separate.
Kitty?
That was my question, is it gonna be posted and the seeking of the job application coming out of Cornell, I'm hoping that you're gonna put out the ad, you're gonna seek the person and
We
then
would post in our normal way, which is, I can spell it out, but it's very, broad and formal to satisfy the Cornell criteria. And we have a real specific format for the job description, everything that obviously we've worked together with you on. And then I know that Joe's already posted for the other position, so obviously we'll combine it and repost to the applicants that have already applied for the current job.
Good.
Guys.
Okay,
So
Cora?
it would be coming out of Cornell, the posting, not out of our personnel, am I correct?
Well,
I'm hoping.
I'm assuming we can post through the same network that you did also, Jill, so we
Right,
post in
and we
both areas.
posted the agricultural planner position, and we did receive resumes through that. We can put it out possibly, but it would formally be coming from Cornell, and since
Okay.
it's their position.
Good, thank you.
Okay, Cora?
Sorry, Greg, I was sick last Thursday, so I wasn't in the meeting, but I talked to a couple of people with regards to, this sort of split, because I think Alan Sorensen said that during his time as planning commissioner, it had worked before, and one of the things that I'm concerned about, and this kind of gets back to what we were talking about with regard to the SUNY Sullivan contract, is what I would like to see a specific section in the contract that says deliverables, and the specific deliverables that person will have, because having a person there 40 or 50 or 60% of the time is not a deliverable in my book. In my book, or in my way of thinking, a deliverable would be that this person would submit a specific CFA application in a specific area, or there would be a tangible result that you can point to, that because that person was there 40% of the time, the county received this deliverable. And we're just trying to,
Sure.
concretize something that's very amorphous right now.
Yeah.
And I think that, we all know what's gone on with the CFA process this year. We know that we're gonna start working in September 2013 for the August 2014 deadline. So I would like to, I'm not gonna be so restricted to say I want this in, but I want to know that the deliverables are gonna be met.
Sure. I mean,
And
part
this
of
is
the,
a trial thing, right?
it's
for
a
6
6-month
months?
trial, but part of the dialogue that I thought went really well last week is,
Well, I wasn't here, so I can't.
I know, but I'm gonna quickly recap it, is Cornell has specific goals that we want in benchmarks that we're also gonna be having as deliverables, and so does the county. So in my mind, we have these, and you need to have those delivered, and so do we. So those are parts of the job description that are specific to the county and specific to Cornell. Then there's the entire shared part, where the efficiency part really comes in. So that's the part that, is critical to define and make sure we're all on the same page. But the part from the county side, to me, they're a percentage employee of the county, and they need to deliver these, benchmarks that you're asking for.
So will the contract actually have a paragraph that says deliverables to the county and then list them?
I guess we can discuss that. I see it in the job description.
Right, that's what we have to do.
Yeah.
Once we finish, if this gets approved, then that would be the next step, is sitting down and creating that ad and that list.
Okay.
Okay, Cindy?
Yeah, just, because the mission and the goals traditionally of Cornell and in the ag community is more one of research, teaching, providing statistics, assistance, things like that. The planning department role would be more of building capacity in the ag community, actually doing site visits on the farms and, trying to make those connections and things. So that would be my concern as well, that the job description clearly define the role of Cornell versus the role of county planning and how best to serve the ag community.
Sure, again, I think the draft 2-pager has very specific county commitments that, to me, it's critical they're in the job description as part of the job.
And I think from a high level, we can put what you want in the contract, but we are going to have access to this individual for 2 days, 1 week, 3 days, or however it's structured, 50% of the time. So we as legislature and staff can direct them on what they're going to be doing.
Well, we don't know the percentage of time yet, right, 60-40, 50-50?
Well, it's be a minimum 50-50, but it could fluctuate depending on the week and the timelines that are going on, but at any moment period of time. But I think we can write that into the contract, but the basic is that we need to have access to them for at a minimum 50% of the time.
Well, because there are state requirements in the ag
And then
districting.
the legislature then through staff can direct them to focus on, for that 50% of the time, what they want them to focus on, whether it's building capacity on the farms or so. I think the key that has to be in the contract is the amount of time we have access to them and stuff. So I don't know that we need to necessarily, we can, but I don't know if we get to write exactly line by line exactly what the counties would be having them doing. The key is that we will have access to that body for X period of time.
Okay, all in favor? Opposed?
Eat it.
Thank you. Okay, now we'll move back to number 4, and that's to create a planner position within the Department of Planning.
Move it.
Second?
Second.
Okay. Jean, discussion.
I would speak in favor of this, being that we would be looking for somebody potentially as the head of planning to coordinate all the positions within planning. Since we've now allowed ag to be a separate piece that would be combined, I think that we'd end up having the better opportunity to have funding for this position. So even though I've not been one who's been filling positions, I'm all for filling this.
Okay. Cindy, did you have?
How fulfilling.
Okay, Jonathan?
There's a vacancy in planning right now?
It's currently the vacant commissioner position,
Right.
and then there's the vacant ag plan position.
was-
They have a total of 5, the other 3 are filled. In essence, with this resolution before you and the one you just passed, would then, in essence, create and have 5.5 positions roughly.
Instead of
instead of 5.
All right, so
With the same
then
fund.
that affects then half a position, roughly.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, just out of curiosity, now that I'm looking at it
On a roll.
closer, are we looking for, is this a position in planning, or is this looking to fill the planning commission?
No.
This is a new position.
You're in essence taking the monies you're saving with this Cornell arrangement and now directing it toward creating another position. So for, in essence, the same money, you're now gonna have 5.5 staff versus 5.
Right, it's a wash.
And the money's in the budget, correct? Because we can fill the position.
Yeah, I mean, you have vacant
Right.
positions, and you also have the savings from this Cornell arrangement.
So I guess my next question would be if
Cindy?
we're creating, yes.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you saw my
Wanted
hand.
to make it official.
As far as creating
Lunch,
the
okay.
position in planning, and we're voting to do that, the next step would be to sit down and have the job description made up so that we know the goals of this particular position.
But the planner position is an existing position on the salary scale and in the union contract. It has a specific job description. It's relatively not open-ended, but it's got some flexibility that they can do quite a few things within the planning department versus if you're gonna create a very narrow, like, community development specialist or something. So it kind of leaves open that we can have them do a multitude of things versus having a very specific position, like an ag position specific. See, if you create a planner, they can kind of do planning one day or do community development another day. They can do a lot of varied things versus having a very specific position. So that's kind of why we created just a planner.
I guess I'm confused, if I may. Did we?
Hold on one second, Kitty. Cindy, were you finished? You were gonna say something.
Yeah, you know, I had advocated to build capacity in planning department as well. With the, I mean, my focus is on, you know, building capacity in the small business sector. So hiring, you know, a planning position, a planner to focus on initiatives to drive small business. So creating this position today with this agreement with Cornell, at
But
what point?
that's done already.
That's already done.
This is separate.
I understand that, but this is a result of that, yes?
Yeah.
Okay, so if we're looking at this planning position in particular, the role of this planner, like you were saying, it could be ag, it could be this, it could be that. At what point does that take place, those discussions to determine what that planner is gonna be charged with?
That's up to the
Well, I
head of
think-
that
That would be up
department.
to the head of the
And a lot of it, I mean, you had the strategic plan meeting earlier in the week, and I think a lot of that, what they're doing will be driven in part by what is the outcome of that, whether
Right.
you're looking to apply for Main Street grants, or you wanna do community development grants, or you want to focus on broadband. I mean, I think a lot of that, there are gonna be a lot of stuff that they can help out with from the day-to-day stuff that they're overwhelmed already. But I think ultimately, once they get beyond that, that from the legislative priorities will drive what that office in this position is doing.
I guess I'm missing a piece. Piece that I'm missing is, do we have a planning commissioner, or do we only have an acting planning commissioner? Have we sought to fill the planning commissioner's position? So they, you know, because hiring positions and not having a head of the department, I mean, I appreciate Jill, but I'm not sure if she is the planning commissioner or if she is the temporary acting and that we're looking to fill that position. I guess I'm not clear on that.
Right now, Jill is acting as the planning commissioner.
So we don't, have we advertised, are we advertising? What are we doing about filling that position? I know there was a point in time, Carol, help me out with whether or not we were gonna call it a commissioner or something else, and that's where that got sidetracked. And I don't think we ever came to a conclusion with that, have we?
Well, we're working on a job description to fill all of the needs according to the charter as well.
Carolyn, can you please speak up? Sorry.
You're not being picked up on the thing,
I'm
so if you
sorry.
came in.
We're working on a job description. We have a job description, we've had one. We're looking at that to determine if everything, all of the duties that are in the charter, that are described in the charter for the commissioner, are in that job description. So we're looking at that. We're also looking at the qualifications. And I'm looking at that. Now, I have spoken with the chair, and I also want to sit down with Alan, actually, because he has the prior experience in the department as well as being in planning, and go through that with them to make sure that I've covered and understand all of the needs of what you're all looking for. And that's where we are right now.
So at the present time, Jill is the acting temporary commissioner.
She's the acting commissioner.
No temporary.
Okay.
And the
Acting.
discussion has not been finalized or on the rest of it. So there's still this ongoing discussion on the planning department.
Do we have a timeline as to when that discussion is gonna be completed and a decision is gonna be made?
We need to stay focused on what we're doing right now. That would be taking place in planning, so we would probably need to have Alan at the table to have that conversation.
Okay, thank you.
Cora?
Yeah, title grade 11 of the salary schedule, so do we have a breakdown of the position, the benefits, the hours?
Is that a higher grade or a lesser grade than anybody else in that department? I guess is what we're asking.
It's an entry level.
You know me, a resolution without an amount.
It's an entry level. It's
Do you want the
You can take a salary.
salaries on the website.
salary? The full salary is $45,389.
Plus 30 for benefits, correct?
Roughly, Josh?
Usually,
That's full. That's not first step.
that's assuming county coverage.
30,000.
30000. And that's full county share, 75,389.
And this is an entry-level position, Jill?
There are other planning
It
titles
is
below a
mid-level.
planner.
There
There's
is
This
a
is like a
junior
step and a
planner.
half above an entry level position.
There are other
Okay.
planner positions lower on the salary schedule than this, but
I mean, after
Yeah,
the
I think
meeting,
it's
you
a
can go
junior
onto the
plan.
website and you can look up the contract and you can find the salary. It's all there.
Well, this is the answer
It's
to the
on, it's,
question I wanted.
right, but it's
Okay.
on the portal. It's right there.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. Okay, all in favor? Opposed?
Cindy, you're opposed? Okay, 8-zip.
Okay. Number 6, to amend Resolution 27513 regarding Sullivan County Community College one-card system for students' use.
Jonathan.
Jonathan, second. Kathy. Okay, all in favor? Opposed?
8-zip.
Number 7, supporting the enactment of a constitutional amendment authorizing Class 3 gaming in New York State. This is strictly
Ira.
a support.
Second.
Second. Kitty?
Kitty.
Okay, this is strictly support, has nothing to do with any kind of funding. It is strictly in support of the referendum. Cindy?
I just wanted to say, I did review the resolution, and I am uncomfortable with the last whereas, where it actually takes, what I feel, I'm uncomfortable with it, because I feel that it's ahead of the people's vote on the referendum. We're supporting one position over another, and I feel that seeking this yes vote yes on proposal number 1, I'm not comfortable with that. What I feel we should be doing in a resolution is to, and I did a little research, other municipalities are looking at impact agreements, because putting aside all the concerns about, casinos with, that you've heard over and over and over, and I'm not saying, that's the case or not the case. My concern is there are gonna be impacts. There's gonna be impacts in infrastructure, bridges and highways, and other municipalities are actually working forward to make sure that impact agreements are in place, so that there are some of these concerns, if we do wind up with increased costs in areas in the county, we can mitigate those with some of these impact agreements, so.
Who would the impact agreements be with?
Yeah.
Other municipalities are lobbying the state to try to get,
They would enter, they're trying to enter into an MOU with the state, which I don't think they.
well, what I'm trying to say is, I'm not comfortable with the yes on here. I did read the one from Dan Stern that we just got in the mail, and there was no position taken. I think we'd be better off encouraging voters to come out. As elected official, I don't feel comfortable, stepping ahead of the people's vote in November, so that's all I wanted to say.
Any other? Kitty?
I would speak in favor of it as it stands, simply because I think we want to let the voters know. As the county legislator, getting the people out to vote is very important. There was a rally last evening. I apologize for not attending. Nonetheless, I think we, the county, want to see gaming happen in this county. We want to have those places. So I would speak in favor of telling them to vote yes. That's what we're trying to accomplish. We're trying to get gaming here in Sullivan County.
And I'd just like to say that years ago, we have MOUs with the Indians, and we did a lot of studies on the impact to the jail and to the schools. We have all that, but to me, first, let's see if it's going to pass. If it's going to pass, why waste your time in doing studies when we already have some? Let's see if it's going to pass. Once it passes, we can pull out all those MOUs, those agreements, go over them again, and we can discuss the impacts they'll have on schools and our roads and all that kind of stuff. But if it doesn't pass, it's a moot point.
I would agree with the timing on that. I'm just uncomfortable with the yes ahead of the people's vote in November.
Ira?
But they're going to have the opportunity to vote.
This
This is a resolution showing our support of the resolution that passed gaming. Any project that would come into Sullivan County would have to go through a SEQA process where all the impacts are going to be addressed in the municipality that it would happen in. So although you have concerns and they may be valid ones, those would be addressed at the proper time.
Yeah, but Ira, when there are
Yes,
impacts to the
on-
county, like to the jail,
That's
that-
part of the SEQA process.
but it still goes through the town?
Because whoever the leading agency would be
Right.
in SEQA would have that responsibility. And there's a period of time that all interested parties have a right to be involved in the SEQA process. They send out letters, and the process allows those impacts to be addressed.
So who led those impacts, the last merry-go-round?
The town.
Whichever town it was going to be located
Town
in.
of Thompson.
In other words, if it was going to be in the town of Fallsburg, the town of
Right.
Fallsburg would have to be the lead agency.
Right. And if it goes through this time, and it could be Monticello, so it would be Thompson. If it could go through in Liberty, it would be the Liberty Town Board, or Planning Board.
Planning board,
Do you
zoning
still have
board.
those reports from the last time around, Hal, on impacts to the jail?
We have them.
Gaming?
Yeah,
No.
okay.
We have them.
All of that,
They're here
And
somewhere.
Annie has them.
all of
We
that
have 'em.
information
We
is
have
here.
'em.
Annie
I
has
had
it in
asked
her
for that
files.
information, but I didn't even know we had it. I
Just
mean,
by way of clarification, the reason the impact studies, the mitigation agreements were done is going to be that it was an Indian game situation as opposed to what we're talking about now.
Yeah, two different things.
There's a
Well, the
separate-
impacts on the roads and the
Let me
jail and the
just- let me just-
schools.
Let me just finish. The Indians were a separate nation, they're sovereign, no taxes. So the mitigation agreements were done to provide the county with the type of funds that we would have received from a private casino developer with respect to an Indian nation casino developer. That's why those mitigation agreements were done the way they were done, in order to rationalize or determine what the amount should have been. Studies were done to determine what the possible impacts might be to schools, jail, road, all of those things. Most of them were done by Spectrum Gaming at the time. It's a private corporation. So all that information was done.
And we did the MOUs because we wanted to make sure the county was protected, and we had
Absolutely.
$15 million that, once the shovel was put in the ground, they were gonna pay the county $15 million, because we wanted to make sure that our infrastructure and our schools and our police departments were taken care of. So we did our due diligence, and we will, if this passes, hopefully it will in November, we'll continue to have that discussion, and we can be part of the towns.
Right.
When the town has it, wherever township is gonna go in, if it's town of Thompson, the county legislature should sit at the table and have input.
It's currently already a part of the enabling legislation, that the county would split 10% of whatever the take was for the casinos, and it would be split evenly between the town and the county.
Right.
So those things that were negotiated with the Indian nations are already a part of the enabling legislation to this referendum.
Okay.
Anything further? All in favor? Opposed?
7-1, Mrs. Geiger opposed.
Thanks.
I'd like to make a motion, 8, 9, and 10 be moved as one.
Okay. Second? Jonathan? Okay, any discussion? All in favor? Opposed?
8-zip.
Okay. And number 11, create a full-time temporary account clerk database position. Second?
I'll second.
Jean, any questions? All in favor? Okay.
8-zip.
Opposed? All right. Before we finish up, I apologize to Linda. I had asked Linda to come in today, Linda Levine, to come in today and give us an update on our redistricting to where it is today, before we convene the committee that was put into place. So, Linda, if you would.
Okay, well, I have handouts for everyone.
Back in school.
Yeah.
The learning
Exactly, all of us, I felt the same
I
thing.
guess that's it.
Have to smell the mimeograph paper.
Do we get the color?
Yeah, oh, I can smell the mimeograph ink now.
Oh, that was a great smell.
Got some visual aids.
By number.
They
have spreadsheets, Scott.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Nobody knows better than you.
If anybody wants to be cut out of their district, this would be the time.
You give me your wish list.
It's happening, you know.
You want a 31?
Yes,
I
please.
want a 31.
Here.
Now you get one.
Yeah, you got it?
Okay.
Everybody.
Are these different?
Yes.
Okay.
The legislative districts.
Oh, yeah.
Don't do like orange and greens anymore.
I'm getting dizzy.
I need another one of them, please.
Yeah, can I?
Here's now one of those
I need the
orange
new
ones.
second one.
The
This one?
less
That-
complicated one,
that
yeah.
one.
The less complicated one
Need one of those
shows
too,
the
please.
legislative districts with the election districts overlaid on top of them.
Thank you, Chris.
Different.
Yeah, you would think.
Before I start, I would like to introduce Chris Knapp from my office. He did the mapping for me. And he
Very
did some
good,
of the
Chris.
research. I have Melissa Havrell, who is our summer intern, and she worked on this project this summer for us. I basically passed out these two maps, just basically so you could see the, how the legislative districts are configured at this time. The election districts are overlaid on top of them, so you can see what election districts in each town are in each of your respective legislative districts. It gives you the population of the district as a whole and the population of each of the election districts. The more complicated map, the nice colorful green, yellow, orange, and red map, shows the concentration of the population, because just because you move election districts from one area to another doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have the density of the population that you need to make each of the legislative districts relatively equal.
Are you looking at about 8,000? Is that what your number is?
The number is,
8,400.
yeah, it's about 8,474 to be exact.
8,400.
74 is the mean, and you have to be within plus or minus 5%, which is, so the range would be 8,050 to 8,898. And, you know, I gave you on the handout, the sheet, the written sheet, gives you those legislative districts that fall below, those legislative districts that fall above, and those that are within the acceptable range. just because they're within the acceptable range does not necessarily mean that they will stay in the same configuration that they are currently, because there is a ripple effect that occurs when you start moving things around. Also, on page 2 of the handout, I just want to note for you that the law requires that, especially in Sullivan County, because we did pass legislation to allow greater than, I think it was 850 active registrants,
950.
or 950 active registrants in each election district. Sullivan County had passed a resolution many, many, many years ago, which allows for 1,150 active registrants in each election district. There are some, however, that fall above that acceptable amount. And those will have to either be reconfigured or split during this process in order to make sure that they're within the law. And I give you a list of those as well. The problem with splitting election districts is it's going to increase your costs, because you're going to have to create another polling place. Whether you have another location or whether you include it within another location, you're still going to need, within the same location, you're still going to need workers for that specific election district. You're going to need machines, you're going to need the ballots. So it does increase the cost of running an election. In this document, I have listed several analysis that need to be done. Most importantly, you don't want to redistrict where you are gerrymandering the legislative districts, in that you don't want to put all the Republicans in one district to somebody's advantage versus Democrats in another district to somebody's advantage. And you need somebody who's going to be able to analyze the data and let you know whether or not you've achieved the purpose of the redistricting to make it fair and equal for everyone. You also don't want the minorities to be unfairly represented in any of the legislative districts. And you would need somebody to analyze the census data and the demographics to make that determination. I have not spoken to Jill regarding whether or not her staff has the ability or the resources or the time in order to do those types of analysis. I have discussed this though with the county attorney, and we have we feel that it probably would be best, given time constraints, that we hire an outside consultant to do that portion of it. I think that we can reduce the cost of a consultant by all the data that we have put together. We have, the last time we did the redistricting process, which was back in 2003, 2004, we didn't have the tax map in the GIS system. They're fully GIS and accessible via the GIS program. We also have built on top of the base tax map layer several layers, which includes the census data, includes the election district data, includes the voter registration data, which we receive from the election, from the Board of Elections. And thank you for your help in this process as well. So I would suggest that we get a consultant on board, that we RFP a consultant in the next few weeks, next month or so. I did note that a plan for redistricting would be adopted by this legislature by local law. I believe it's subject to permissive referendum, and Sam can, comment on that. If that's the case, we probably want to have a plan in place sometime by the end of June, I would think, of 2014. In case there's a challenge, it would then go on the ballot in November of 2014 and would be ready for the legislators who would be running again in 2015.
Is that I'm sorry, Gene.
No, that's right.
Is that the goal, to have it done by June, or would we try to target a little earlier than that even?
Well, I would say at the latest, June.
At the latest,
We
June, okay.
probably should target earlier, and like I said, we have a lot of information. I don't know, how long it will take once we get a consultant on board. But I think that if we manage to, schedule meetings of the committee, keep the legislature involved in the process, I'm sure that we could meet that deadline.
Sorry, I don't
I'm sorry,
remember the
Cara,
cost.
Jean was up.
We were talking about the cost of the,
I have a totally different,
consulting.
well, that's.
We'll
that's
go
something
to
else.
that next, but
I have
Jean, go
another
ahead.
question, and then you can ask yours. Not that I'm trying to be nasty. The correctional facility populations, that's still considered in?
That is considered to be out. The legislature passed, state legislature
That's what I
passed the
thought.
law
That's why I'm
that
asking.
removed them from consideration in the population for redistricting purposes. So these figures do not include the prison population.
All right, so where it says District 7 population, on this part of the map, 8,028, I see down below, where it's in red, 7867. Which is the correct figure?
7867 is without the correction population, I believe. Is that right?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, I don't know why
Okay,
that notation wasn't removed. It was on an earlier map that we had
Okay.
done prior to that law having passed,
Well,
so.
Believe me, I don't plan on campaigning inside the facilities.
About the college.
Or I
The
just wanted
colleges in my
to,
district, if they're registered to vote here, I would assume.
There's a different assumption there. The assumption that there's students living in dorms, so they have a residence, and then at the same time, they're not resident voters, because if I recall correctly,
I would
when
assume
my
it goes
kids
by
were
where
in
they're
college,
registered
they
to
were
vote.
considered to be,
No.
their home was considered to be my home,
that's right.
even though they,
Yeah,
so
that's
are they
right.
within the population or not?
Whether or not they were considered in the census information that was provided in 2010.
So if a
The
college.
population we received is from, when the census workers go out and they do their inventory of who lives where, that's what we get as far as population is concerned. With respect to the registration the election registration information, we get that directly from the Board of Elections.
So a student who's living on such and such a dorm, who's, was by the census, living there, is considered in the population?
If they were living there at the time when they.
When I did the census for my daughter, right, she goes to college now, she's considered that she's living in the county, sure. I see. Cora asked about the last time we did this, it was, we hired.
You adopted it in January 23rd, 2003.
And that wasn't my question.
That's not the
Oh.
It
question.
was
How much?
$25,000.
Yeah, I think it was 25,000.
But I think you said you could probably,
I-
we got RFP that, or how?
I believe we would probably RFP it.
Okay.
I would think that it would be considerably less considering that we
Right.
have all the GIS
Right.
layers.
And I just wanna say, whether it's 10,000, hopefully it's 10 opposed to 25, but whatever it is, in the long run, it will benefit the county, because the last thing you wanna do is go to court and have this sit there and have the judge decide who lives where.
Cost
or-
Orange County $90,000.
How much did they
to write
spend?
about
Okay,
25.
so,
What'd you say, Jonathan?
Said it just
Orange
cost
County.
Orange County almost $100,000 in legal fees.
Right.
yeah.
For their.
Well, hopefully we'll avoid all of that by addressing it early and
They didn't have it
in this very organized way. Is anything further, Linda, that you have? Does anybody have any further questions? Kitty?
Yes.
Are we looking to actually change the districts at this time, or we're just looking to verify that the
We-
districts are
we-
correct?
We have to change the
You
district.
have to change the district.
And just because you
And-
change one, there's gonna be a.
Right, and
Right.
Kitty, I just want to give you an example. The last time we did this census, I actually had too many constituents. I used to actually used to go from Mamakating to the town of Tustin. Whoever figured that out, I just, whatever. So they actually had to cut me out of Tustin because they had too many constituents. So since they cut me out of Tustin, they gave it to Scott, who would be the next one, well, the closest person.
Well, I'm getting Highland next time, too.
Great, okay, so anyway, that's the trickle effect.
Well, it's complicated, just.
It is.
For example, I think I have the most voters, yet I
Right.
only have 4 districts. Because I have, you know,
You have a
I have a
concentration.
concentration,
Right.
so it makes it very difficult to, to change it from that.
Right.
Okay? Yeah, only
Even
4
in the
election districts.
resolutions.
Okay. Any further questions of Linda? Okay. Thank you so much, Linda. Thank you,
Chris.
Ann and Rodney, for your help, and whoever else helped with the report, Chris, thank you. And I forgot your name, but thank you. Melissa, thank you.
I'm sorry, one other question. We're not determining this, an outside consultant is determining.
We'll have to vote on it.
Right.
We have to
Right,
vote
but
on
they're
it.
coming forward.
Correct.
Correct. With the
that.
information that they've put together in the county already, they'll give it to the consultant, and they'll put all the information.
1, 2, or 3 alternate maps.
Moving along.
Okay, we need to move on. We have a handout resolution.
He needs lunch.
Then you fight among yourselves.
Okay, settlement in Med World.
Okay. We have a resolution that was just handed out. This came from the county attorney's office, introduced by the executive committee to enter into a settlement and release agreement with MedWorld Acquisition Corp., DBA MedWorld Pharmacy. So motion for discussion?
Cindy.
Cindy, second.
I'll second.
Jean, okay. Maybe we should start with the explanation.
Yeah.
So Josh, explain, and then whatever questions come from there, we'll go with that.
This, as you recall, it goes back to when the sheriff and Hal came in about the dispute on how much we owed MedWorld. And at the time, we were pretty confident we would have to pay $40-something thousand less. You had moved that into the sheriff's road patrol overtime. This is the final settlement agreement that the county attorneys negotiated with Hal and the sheriff with MedWorld.
Could you repeat that last sentence regarding the overtime? Sorry.
This is tied in to when we moved.
The $43,000.
Some of this savings here, as a result of the settlement, was moved into the sheriff's road patrol overtime. It was about $40,000. So if you look at the third page, MedWorld had invoices to us of almost $100,000 that we were disputing. Sam had negotiated down that we're going to pay them 43, so the balance would be the savings to the county from what MedWorld had billed us.
Now, is that
I think-
actual, is that actual savings?
I think the way it's being worded, that it's in, that we
Yeah.
owe them money is confusing. We're saving money because of being overcharged and we didn't pay a certain amount, so we're getting a
Hal's saying
savings.
no.
Saying
No,
no.
no.
No?
Hal, you want to explain to us,
What we're
please?
getting is we budgeted for the full amount that MedWorld charged. So you had a budgeted amount of $90,000+. Due to the negotiations that Hal had with MedWorld, they reduced the charge to $43,000. What you have now is that extra roughly 50 in the
grand.
budget that had already been budgeted,
John?
that you then moved into the sheriff's overtime.
No.
But they had accrued, the money had been accrued
These
at the
were
end of
these were actually past due bills from 2011. And these past due bills showed up in 2012. We started negotiating with them and disputing the bills. Obviously, 2012 was coming to an end, so we encumbered the full amount in case we needed it. So we encumbered whatever it was, 90-some. Through our negotiations and discussions with the fact that we believe we were being overcharged, and some of it was they didn't bother sending us a bill, so that's why we didn't pay it for years. And they finally came up with an agreement that they would settle that bill for this amount of money.
So how, just.
Instead of saving 50,000, we spent it on overtime.
The,
We reallocated, is a better word for it.
We spent it.
We spent it, yeah.
Okay. Cora, do you have?
so,
Not a saving in the pocket.
We didn't save anything.
when the original conversation started, months and months and months ago, there was a conversation that the state negotiated
Okay.
rates hadn't been passed on to us. Is that part of this same conversation, or this is a separate?
It's more or less a separate that we tied into it. You know what I mean?
No.
It's the fact that we weren't put on the state rate came to light. And because it came to light, I said to him, you know, listen, we owe you this money, but you've been apparently overcharging us for all these years, so I think we really need to sit down and discuss these bills and come up with a reasonable settlement for both sides. So one kind of worked into the other.
So at the end of the day, when we look at the budget, out of this 99-660.64, how much has actually been spent on the overtime? 40-something? So that leaves 50 moved into a different line item? Is that, at the end of the day, how it looks?
I have no idea how much that.
Out of the
overtime's been spent.
99,
That's
we're gonna be
patrol.
spending 43 by this settlement.
Biggest
And then
bill.
you allocated, it was under 50, it was a 40, I don't know.
think it was
can get you
So
the
we're
number.
7,000 out.
I think it was.
What it
46.
was between 43 and 46, because we didn't have a final number. So now that we have the final number, it's
So you are
43,
still gonna save
that's the number.
some money, but not, it'll
23
be
cents?
under
I don't know.
10,000, it'll be $7,000 or $8,000 or something on that order.
So we're not out of pocket after all is said and done.
And you're gonna save a little bit, not 50 something, because you allocated 40 something total.
Because I know Janet and I spent hours and hours and hours going over this, and I'm still not clear.
Well, before, I can get you the exact number transferred for the overtime, and then that plus the 43 will give you what we'll have spent out of this time.
And what we'll have saved.
This is all came about from last month's resolution, when they came back to ask to bring back $100,000, the sheriff asked for overtime. And then we voted that we'd give half of it back based on the money we were saving from this.
We would give them back the savings that the jail got on from
Exactly.
Networld, right?
It seemed to be presented a lot.
But I don't think it was last month, it may have been.
Months ago.
It was
I think it's,
quite a
I think
while
it's a
ago.
couple of few months ago, yeah, it's a little while ago.
And it was worded a little differently, but.
Okay, yeah, it's confusing in the wording, but the end result is the same.
Yeah.
as
Okay, well, thanks
the
to everybody that brought MedWorld from 99
Cindy?
to 43.
As far as the delay from MedWorld in actually billing, how was that addressed when that occurred?
Well, we have one point of contact now, and our bills are now received by FedEx and email, so there is no more confusion. It appeared that our bills were ending up in various locations. One bill was found in CRMC. I can't explain why that happened.
Did they pay it?
Unfortunately, no.
Luckily, no, in the end.
Let's move at this point.
Okay, so all in favor? Opposed?
I'm opposed to something, but not this resolution.
All right, so it's 8-0, okay.
No, because I think.
All in favor of this resolution? All opposed to this resolution? All right.
8-7.
You got it?
Yes, 8-0.
Okay. Public comment. All right, let me go with these gentlemen first. Sure.
Yes, last month I came before the subcommittee, last week, the property meeting, because I lost 3 of my properties to taxes, which I had money that I wanted to buy back. One is not, didn't go at the auction. And Alan Sorsey was gonna help me with Ira Cohen and whatnot, he's not here today. What I'm proposing is, we want to buy back one of our properties that didn't go through in a tax sale. I just want to make it on record, I want to make sure that we have the opportunity to buy it back.
It's my understanding that that is not possible. Is that, am I correct, Nancy?
It didn't sell at auction, right, Nancy? The third property?
What happened is, it was sold, the one that, the original, the one that he's talking in Bethel, I believe, we'll just talk about Bethel right now. The Bethel parcel did go to auction, the bidder backed out, it's been sent to the second bidder, and I said, let's see what happens when that deadline's up, which is coming up. That's all I mentioned last week. So if it's.
Oh, I was sick, so I wasn't there.
I'm sorry, Corey, yeah.
Yes.
So if the second bidder backs out, would they have the opportunity or not? That would be up to you guys. Okay.
And when is
Okay.
that deadline?
I've been out a couple days, I'm
Oh,
really
okay.
sorry.
That's all right, don't be sorry.
It's coming
Say
up.
that again, okay, we haven't missed the deadline.
I don't know what the deadline is. We will know. People have, we always give post dates. So even if it was the 25th of the month, we may not have a total answer till the 28th because some people put in their offers through the yes. So we always give a couple days. I will look at the date. I'm sorry, that wasn't my top priority and I didn't look to see what the date was.
Okay.
I didn't
So
realize.
the bottom line, Cindy, is if the second bidder comes back, they have the opportunity to purchase the property.
so I'm
If they don't come back,
Really quick,
then
Nancy,
we
is
have to
that,
make a decision.
is that option available to someone after the first bid is rejected, or, not followed through on? Or only
Well,
after the second?
this isn't a rejected bid. This was a.
No, I didn't mean that, but does the legislature have the authority after the first bid is not followed through on? Because you just said it would be up to the legislature to determine if it would go back to the original property owner after the
It's
second bidder?
The general, what would happen is for any private sale after the auction, it should go to the Real Property Advisory Board and all things taken in consideration, and the advisory board would come back with a recommendation to the legislators to make the final decision.
After the first bid?
The second.
Only
Second.
after the second? There's nothing after the?
Well, there's.
Probably take two bidders.
That's fine.
No, I'm just asking that question, so I'm clear.
Mhm.
It's only after the second bid that the legislature would have that option to,
And that would be after they go before the Real Property Committee and they make a
Right.
determination and bring it to the legislature. Kitty?
So to clarify, somebody bids on a piece of property. They receive the property by rights in the auction, but they do not follow through with it.
They
It
forfeit their
then,
deposit.
right. Then it goes to the second bidder. The second bidder then has the opportunity to receive or renege on it. And then the legislator has, after it goes to real property for a decision, to re-offer it
Private sale.
to the original or private sale.
Private
Right.
sale.
Private sale.
Okay. Because I just don't want to be setting a precedent, because there has been many, many places that have lost their place for whatever reason. Everybody's in a hard strait right now. I don't think there's any place in the county that you can't say did not suffer economically and has lost their properties. And I just don't want to open up a floodgate to all places saying, you did it for them, how come you're not doing it for me? So there is a procedure. The procedure has been in place. It's not something new that we're creating.
Nope.
Right.
Okay,
but I
thanks
mean,
for the clarification.
is there, oh, sorry, I guess we can have this conversation.
Gentlemen.
Okay, one more thing and then.
I just want to speak for my brother, Bob Gordon. First of all, the low bid is only offering maybe, what, a couple of thousand?
I
They're
think
offering
that's
thousands of dollars more.
That's mute.
How much is it?
No, I just think that, that discussion
And we
should
don't
go
know if
through
that bid is gonna
advisory
take it,
board.
but he had the 3 properties. He offered $24,000 more. He could pay the full taxes, and the county took only $10,000 on those 3 properties. They could have had the $24,000, and a counselor, who's a prominent attorney who represents him, Jerry Orsak, explained that the board always has the right to a private negotiation, and that you can accept it any way you want. It seems to me that if you can get 24,000, why would you take 10? I mean,
I think, Kitty, I mean, we can keep this going, but this is the third
You set it
time.
out correctly, but just be clear. You set up a process to protect the integrity of the auction process. And so that people know predictably what's going to happen in the auction. That's one. 2, you have criteria for private sale already set up. May or may not meet those criteria. We have in the past where the second bidder didn't step up, put it back in the next auction. So preserving the integrity of the auction process was always the primary goal in setting that procedure that way.
I understand when there's a process, but that doesn't say that you can't look toward some kind of mechanisms in place to ultimately keep the original property owner on their property, so that would be a discussion.
The original
possibly
property
for
owner always has
changes.
redemption and repurchased before it goes to auction. Remember that.
And what's that time frame? That's like,
You sent that memo.
I did, but I could do that very quickly. If everything goes right, the commencement starts in October of the given year. They have until January 31st of the following year to redeem. By local law, they have until April 20th to repurchase. They also have the right to come to the auction and bid at the auction.
And then there's also, prior to that, the installment plan.
There's always an installment for the 2 years prior, right up to the last day of redemption.
So that's actually four opportunities.
Exactly.
but there are circumstances where something occurs in that process, that, you know, an additional assessment or something like that. Are there any exceptions made for something like that?
We have always try to be careful to make sure we treat everything exactly the same and equally, so we don't wind up with a situation where this legislature is accused of treating different people differently for various reasons. We've had
Right, that's a
consistent
major
standing.
concern.
Well, I think we need to look at the process at some point and see.
Okay. Tom, you had your hand up next. And then Ken, I know that you
Did
want
I come over
to speak.
here, or is that all right, Scott? Out in the open?
Take a seat.
Well, we didn't think you were hiding over there.
I know why
You
you
can-
see
You
it.
can stand anywhere you'd like.
I feel big standing up there.
Do you? Okay, there you go.
All right, most of you know me, I'm Tom Manza.
Hold on a second, Tom.
Sure.
Kitty and Cindy.
Thank you. I'm here to talk a little bit about the jail. I haven't spoken about it in a couple of years. I know Hal's back there, and he's probably foaming at the mouth, ready for me to talk. But we've had good conversations, and we both agree as gentlemen to disagree. But anyway, I got involved because the jail was going to be built in my neighborhood. That was the initial involvement. I became polarized to the whole thing when the jail was still being put out there, and 200 layoffs were announced that were going to be coming up, and that property taxes were going to go way up. And I felt that it was ethically wrong for our county to have to endure that for a building. And I still feel that way. I feel like the economy is still very bad, and I haven't changed in how I feel. That people's properties, there are 1,500 properties right now on the foreclosure list, I was told by a realtor, and it's epidemic. It's just insane. Property taxes are too high for the people that are in the area, and I think all of you agree with me here. I don't think that I have a lot of disagreement, so I'm kind of like preaching to the choir, as they say, but in any event, I know that there's been a process. We had a jail committee meeting. I had a little bit of a hard time with it being a private meeting. I think that there's no secrets here that could possibly have to be kept secret from the media, from myself, from any of you legislators. This should be an open process. That's how I got involved in the first place. It wasn't really an open process. I disagreed with that. Whether anybody agrees with me or not, that's how I felt. I feel that way now. The process needs to be open. And at that meeting, there were no minutes taken. I asked for the minutes yesterday, the day before. Again, what's so secretive? We need to have this as an open process. All of you have been for open government. We haggled about the SAFE Act back at the winter time, and the one thing we all agreed on was that it was done secretively behind closed doors. We can't have this. It should all be out in front, and whatever we agree and disagree with at the end of the day, whatever comes up, hopefully it's for the best, but disagreement is good in the governmental process. And I've always been respectful, and again, I didn't blame for not allowing me on the committee, but I should have been allowed to sit there as well as all of you and the media. So what came out of the committee was a committee set up for, as you know, because you endorsed it, to come up with alternatives to the $80 million jail. And what came out of it was no alternatives and a quick diagnosis that it had to be built and that there were no other options and that we have to go ahead with the plans. Well, the only issue I have is I think that going ahead with the plans that weren't completed, they were 90% completed apparently. The plans cost $4 million to do with LaBelle. I have the contract in here. And I think only $2 million's been paid. So you have to pay another $2 million, and it's before our legislature's really deliberated on this issue. So I'd like to see our legislature deliberate first, to go around and see whatever you're going to do. At the end of the day, whatever you decide, after looking at all the alternatives, I know Gina's pitch, going back and looking at Woodburn. I know we have to look at all avenues before we, I don't know, you could say, go for the full amount, which I think is going to hurt people. So all I'm asking is that the legislature look at this whole thing. I mean, you guys have been here a year and a half. It really hasn't been discussed very among you. And before you go with a recommendation to go ahead with plans to try to satisfy an imminent closing, which I don't really believe is going to happen, you really need to talk about it, to deliberate, to look at all the options, have an engineer that knows about building construction go to Woodburn outside of the building engineer that's in the big project, and go there and assess it. Say it's going to cost you $45 million, it's going to cost you $20 million, it's going to cost you this, it can't be done. Whatever it is, have a professional look at it and take into consideration the cost of shipping the inmates back and forth and all the things that Hal and them have done with, and put it on paper so that you have a choice. And that's all I'm asking. I've always said that I thought that building people tell me that they could gut the building that's there now and put in new infrastructure. I know other people, there may not be enough people here that believe that. I think that you still need to do the numbers, kind of like just see what it comes up with if you would have gotten a floor of it, 2 floors of it. That's how I feel, put an addition on it. I think all things have to be on the table. I think the county has not gotten any better in 2 years. Just about everybody in the legislature really kind of agreed that we couldn't afford this project 2 years ago. I don't think that anything's changed in that 2 years. Maybe in 5 years from now that will change. Certainly our people in our county deserve the best we can afford. I never denied that. I feel that way. I know all of you feel that way. I know you feel strongly about that. But anyway, as far as the pressure from the state to close it down, I don't believe it, because I have something from the CLC where they were in a meeting with our county in 09, and where Beeline, the chairman, was at the meeting, and they adamantly said that unless there was a catastrophe, a major catastrophe in our jail, they would not close it down. They don't go around the state closing down everybody's jail. So that, as a fear factor, shouldn't be involved here. We need time to deliberate on this. The county has to, I'm not saying a year, 2 years, I'm saying a matter of months, go around, check out all the options, do the right thing. I have confidence at the end of the day that all you legislators will do the right thing. I know you're smart people. I know that your integrity's there, and I just think that it needs to be deliberated on, not just rushed into. So that's how I feel about that. And then also other counties, let's see, other counties have gone different routes. I know Dutchess County boards out 200 inmates. They say it's cheaper to pass to board out. Now I know that's...
Just so you know, they got a $3.1 million grant today.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because of that.
Yes, and transportation.
Okay. And they say it's cheaper. I know the guy that Molinaro's now in there, and they've, as I said, and I sent the letter to all of you, they're looking at putting pods in their park. I don't know that those are the right issues, but they need to be looked at. If it could save the county right now from going over a cliff, look at it. That's all I'm saying. Do the deliberation, do the work.
Tell them. I agree with you.
And then at the end of the day, down the road, do what you got to do. But at least if it's this legislature owes it to all your constituents to look at all the options, and that's all I'm really saying. And also, we talk about I have the plans for this new jail, and a lot of these buildings are not the pods, and are not really. It's almost all jail administration, jail services, dormitory. I mean, a lot of that structure is at Woodburn. Whether those buildings are any good or not, I don't know. But you got to have somebody look at that. It's about only 20% of the jail is really where the inmates are. The rest of it is really the dormitory, the jail services, the administration, the parking lots, and the loading docks, all the infrastructure like that. So you have to look at all of that. And I know that the COC, Beeline had said he would come down. I have the papers here. And if the county wanted to go that route, he would come down and support the county and look at it, and they would make a declaration of what had to be done. I have a lot of stuff here, a lot of papers here that I've collected over the years. And again, they have the projected costs. I'm not just talking about the design costs. They're $4 million. I think we paid $2 million. It is another $2 million to do it. And for LaBella, I know a lot of people in the previous legislature had some issues about the whole thing with them. I don't know whether we should have another evaluation, but again, the whole thing, I'd appreciate if everybody would just look at all the things, and if the next jail committee meetings, when you do have them, would be open to the public. That's all we ask.
You done? Are you done? No, you finished yet? Because I'm writing down my questions. You finished? Okay. First of all, it wasn't a secret meeting, and you know it wasn't. We had a staff meeting, we have staff meetings all the times about issues in this county, so it wasn't a secret meeting, Tom, all due respect. I saw you in the
Is
hall.
I allowed in?
I saw you, it was a staff, you're not staff. When you want to run for a legislature, I'd be happy to
So
have you
everybody
come.
here was allowed in?
It was a staff meeting, okay? I saw you in the hallway, you asked me to come to the meeting, I said no, but come to my DPW meeting where we discussed.
I didn't see it, Kathy, but I maybe in dreams.
I saw you in.
No,
you wa-
no, I saw you at Bethel Woods for the day of the funeral, that was what I saw.
Where, and I said, you said about the jail, I said come.
You
to
said down the road it might be open to the public, that's
Oh,
what you
well,
told me.
Whatever, okay.
It's
So
not
you
open.
did speak, okay. Anyway, it wasn't a secret meeting, it was a meeting for the staff, okay? The thing is, we've been talking about the jail for like 6 years, 8 years, whatever, right, okay? The new legislators gonna get the opportunity, we're gonna visit sites, we're gonna go through the whole process again. We spent $2 million on the property and almost $2 million on the designs, we're halfway there. Just this past month, we spent $150,000, quote me if I'm wrong, on exporting people from this county to other counties. At the end of this year, it's gonna cost us over $1 million just to transport prisoners. We could have taken that, if we had started 6 years ago, we could have taken that $1 million that we already spent and put it towards a new jail. We can continue to talk about it, but you're gonna have to tell the taxpayers at the end of the day why it's costing us over $1 million or maybe $2 million. At some point, we gotta say, we gotta stop and say, we gotta move.
I understand, it's gotta be for the best effect, but you and I went over this,
And
Kathy.
you know what? I've had there's 76,000 full-time tax-paying residents that have to be part of, we have to do what's right for everybody. Let me finish, I have one more sentence. The reason why you don't want us, let's disclose the truth. The reason why you don't want us to build the jail there is because it's by your property. You just said that.
Kathy,
Okay.
I disclosed everything.
Right, I'm saying, so
I tell you.
that, so I get it, I understand, but I also have the answer to the other 75,000 constituents. Why are you wasting taxpayers' dollars and spending $1 million when exporting prisoners when you're gonna have to build that jail at some point anyway, Labuda? That's what they say to me.
Okay, one more
Okay.
sentence and I'm done,
Right.
Scott, I promise.
Because you and I need to debate all
Kathy, you
day.
and I went through the jail, the cost of boarding out a couple of years ago.
You shouldn't turn this into.
Okay, but I just have one
I
more
agree.
sentence and then I'm gonna close, I promise. I showed you the board out costs. It's half the amount of what it costs in-house. I showed you that. It was $80 to $100 at the time to board out. It's costing us over $200 a day in our own jail. With the new jail, it was $350 to $375 a day. That's the truth. I have those numbers, and I will give them to the legislature to look at.
Okay, so the bottom line with all of this is that there are no decisions that have been made.
Right.
We are only in a discussion process, so that will continue.
Great.
So you're
That's all I'm
not,
asking.
And come to the next DPW meeting, the second Thursday in September, we can continue the discussion.
okay. Ken, I'm sorry.
I want to go briefly back to the Gordon issue, because there's two parts there's two things that stick out. If you remember, they mentioned that they went into the pager 212, taxes. I have a big problem when you walk into an office that is an elected official, they're public servants, they should have been duly notified, you should pay your 211 first. That's one of the things that really sticks in my craw in the process. That has to be investigated, if that was true or not, this is what they claim, and that truly has to be investigated, because they should have been told up front, this is what's outstanding, you should take care of that first. Number two, I sit here through many meetings, and we talk about, what's the county share, we're all worrying about the dollars, and they're willing to pay the full tab. No, they don't want any deal. I can fully understand if they went to auction and I came, I want my property back, and they offered $1,000 and I'll give you $1,200. Well, I owe you $3,000. Yeah, no deal. But here they're actually coming back and they want to give you the full tab, and we, the taxpayer, come out the winner in the end. And so the two really things I don't think they were duly notified of their option when they went in to pay it, and put them behind the 8 ball. And you got to think about the final balance for what the county comes out from under. Thank you.
Can I just say something here? Because I know I've been in Nancy's office many times with many hours on many people who have lost their property. And can you just respond to the thing about
You can't pay an older tax prior to paying a new tax. It's just the opposite by real property tax law.
And who sets that real property tax law?
The state of New York.
Okay, I think that the process is well in place, and if you don't know it, you know, that's an unfortunate thing, but I think the opportunity to learn it and know it is there. It hasn't changed. It's been the same for a number of years, so I don't think we should continue debating that at the moment. We'll wait and see what happens with this particular issue with a response from the second bidder. Is there any other further comment? Nancy? You got your vacancy, so what else could you possibly have for us?
I wanted to just let you know that we're in the process of going live with our community health assessment. So we will be putting our surveys online, putting some ads out there. We'll be doing focus groups and coming up with a community health improvement plan. We're working with Halloran Consulting, so all the data that's gathered online will go directly to them for analysis. So I just wanted to let you know that, and hopefully we'll be able to identify some priorities and come up with some action to improve health. So that'll be a process between now and November.
That's great, thank you.
Scott, I just had one question.
Yes, Lynn.
Am I supposed to be should I start working on an RFP with Kathy Jones for the municipal?
Yes, I think so.
Okay. I just want some clarification. And I did want to clarify Jean's issue. The correct number is 7,867
Okay.
residents in your, or population in your district.
So
you don't have a district anymore.
We were 115.
No, that's fine.
Oh my God.
Okay, so it's the red number in the small box.
Yeah, the
Okay.
number on the map was including the prison population.
That's what I
which
thought.
was about 1,200.
We have a public hearing, you just want to know.
Thank you.
Okay.
15.
There is a public hearing that will be started at 1:15, is it? Yeah, 1:15, we're moving into the other room. So is there any further public comment? Motion to adjourn? Ira, second, Kitty. Thank you, everybody.
Ira.